Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Tang Garden, designed by Francesco Testini and Pierluca Zizzi, with art by Mateusz Mizak, and published by Thundergriff Games. The Tang dynasty is considered the first golden age of the classic Chinese garden, and it's during this period that the game is set, and the emperor has called upon us, the players, to represent various architects to design the most beautiful imperial garden for one of his palaces. So through the course of the game, we're going to be taking on the role of those architects, and we're going to be designing this beautiful garden by laying out these various tiles, connecting rockeries, landscapes, gardens, forests, etc., and also adding beautiful decorations, such as these lovely pavilions, bridges, various different trees, while also attracting birds to the garden and planting flowers and putting fish and koi in the various fish ponds. So join me at the table as I show you how to play Tang Garden, and today I'm going to show you how to do so by playing the solo variant. Now the solo variant plays somewhat differently to the multiplayer game. So I'll explain a couple of those differences right now. The first difference being that in the multiplayer game, each player is given one of these player boards. And you'll see how they have these cutouts over there. They've got different colors at the bottom. And they've got spaces over here for your various lanterns. And spaces over here to put cubes and track as you build the different types of landscapes. So you'll see you've got these different colors here, the orange, green, and blue, which correspond to the blue landscape tiles, the orange rockery garden tiles, and the greenery garden tiles. This stack of tiles over here, you'll see has got this yin and yang symbol, and these are special tiles, which have a variety of different types of landscape on them. So in the multiplayer game, each player is given one of these boards, and you will use that to track various elements, unlock different characters, and so on as you play. So in the solo game, we set these aside and don't play with them. And what this board does in gameplay terms is simulated in slightly different ways in the solo game. So with that out the way, let's dive in and play a few turns and you'll see how the solo game plays. And if you're familiar with the multiplayer game, you'll see how it differs as I go. So the first thing we do at the beginning of the solo game is we are presented with two characters over here. We are going to pick one of these to be the character that we will use for endgame scoring, and the other character will be placed on the board, blocking a space that we will then not be able to place a character in later. So a quick note on these characters. Firstly, you will see over here that I have these painted. I've painted those myself. They don't come painted in the game. They just come as grey plastic. Considering how stunning the art and presentation is of this game, I simply couldn't resist bringing some color to the little grey plastic minis. So I will be playing with these painted minis today. Just know that if you buy the game off the shelf, they don't come like this. But if you are a painter yourself, or if you happen to know someone who is, you too can have your miniatures looking like this. And what these characters do is they are representing various surveyors, dignitaries, and people who are coming to visit the garden. And they're going to look at the garden and basically judge it based on what their personal preference is. So for instance, at the start of the game, we have two characters we can choose from. We can choose the child, or we can choose the empress. The child wants to look at wildlife. So they want you to collect birds and fish, and they want to look at animals at the end of the game. So how that works is if I look at the composition of this card, this top section is an in-game bonus, which is only used in the multiplayer game. We ignore that in-game bonus during a solo game. But I'll just quickly explain how it works anyway. So in a multiplayer game, if you have this character face up in front of you, whenever you place a fish or a bird decoration on the board, you will gain 2 coin. And the coin over here is also representative of your points at the end of the game. Then at the end of the game, this here is what they call your sight bonus. So at the bottom section of the card, this is all that matters in the solo game. We will look at the sight bonus, and each character will score points based on what they're looking at, which is depicted on these various landscape tiles. So we have these small landscape tiles which go in these spaces on the board, and then we have these larger landscape tiles which go in these back spaces. You'll see how those come into play as we go. And they have little pictures on the corner depicting what type of scenery is visible in that landscape. That scenery correlates to what your characters want to look at. So this child wants to look at wildlife in the scenery with the grey border. So you'll see that these are also color-coded. So this wildlife one has the grey border, which matches the border of the character, which also matches the base of the character mini. That helps a little bit with trying to see what the different characters need to look at. How that also works is at the end of the game, the characters will be placed on the board in such a way that they face a specific direction. So when you add a character to the board, you'll always add it onto one of these special circular spaces. That denotes a space where a character can stand. And they will stand there, and depending on which way they're facing, will determine how they score at the end of the game. I'm not going to go into all the details of endgame scoring right now. I'll play a few turns and then I'll explain how endgame scoring will work at the end of the video. Because otherwise it's a little bit too much information right at the top. Already I might be boring you with all these details. So let's do a quick overview of how the Empress works. I'll pick one of these characters and then I'll start playing. So the Empress will score 9 points at the end of the game, so long as she isn't looking at the Emperor or the Lady. The Lady is one of the Emperor's concubines, and naturally the Empress is not very impressed with that. So she doesn't want to look at either of them. For each one that she can see at the end of the game, she'll score -3 points, because she's very unimpressed with them. Now, in a multiplayer game, the Empress is quite a tricky one to have early game. But for now, I'm actually going to keep the Empress, because the way you place the characters in the solo game is quite different. So I'll keep the Empress face up in front of me, over here. I will take the Empress's miniature and place her in front of me. I will discard this card, and I will place the child on an available space on the board. So I'll pick up the child, and I'll place the child facing over there. In the solo game, it doesn't really matter which way they face. They don't score anything. They're simply there to block spaces for me to not be able to place miniatures on the board, thus simulating a multiplayer game where other players would be blocking off different spaces as you go. So we'll return the child card to the box, and now we're ready to start the first turn. So now we immediately encounter a unique element of the solo game. In the solo game, what we're going to do is we're going to pick one of these garden tiles to add to the map. But you will see that each pile has a card next to it, these decoration cards over here. So these decoration cards are representing the various decorations you can add to the garden in addition to the tiles. And they all have very specific placement rules, which I'll explain as I go. So in the multiplayer game, you can usually either place a garden tile on the map, or you can choose to draft a certain number of decoration cards and place a decoration on your turn. And the decorations are a sort of set collection element. So for instance, the birds over here in the multiplayer game, if you have just a single bird by itself, it doesn't score anything. But for every pair of birds and fish, you will score 6 points. So you're trying to do a bit of set collection in the multiplayer game. In the solo game, we don't do that. So right now, I'll pick one of these tiles, add it to the garden, and show you how it works. I'm going to go with this tile over here, which is one of these special ones. So you'll see it's got greenery and water, whereas all these others are just one type of landscape. And now to place it in the garden, I must match its edge to a terrain type already on the map. So I could place it over here, like so, or over there, or over there. It then also has this little stone edge. You can just barely make it out there. It's a bit more clear, say, on this one over here, the stone edge over there. So stone paths can match up with stone paths. Or you could match water with water, like so. For right now, I'm going to place it over here. And so now I have matched greenery to greenery. And now in the solo game, by matching terrain, I gain 1 coin for each edge of the tile that matches terrain placed. So I will gain 1 coin from the supply over here. And remembering that that is now 1 point towards the end of the game. And that is all for the first turn. But now I must place this tree. So I take this tree decoration card, discard it over there, and I must place this tree somewhere on the map. So this is the specific element of the solo game. Basically, the goal in this solo game is to fill in this space here. So as denoted by these tokens on the edges of the map, these represent these landscape tiles. When you place a garden tile covering up one of these, you take that, keep it in front of you, and then you can place a large or a small landscape tile, depending on which one of these you pick up. And these are in these very specific corners, which denote the area that we have to fill in the solo game. So our objective here is to fill this area before running out of possible moves. If we find ourselves in a situation where we cannot place the decoration. So right now I've just placed this greenery landscape. I am now going to find this tree, which is this one over here. Now greenery have to match the symbol, so we're shown a little symbol on the card over there, which shows this greenery symbol, which we can match to the greenery symbol on the greenery tile. So this tree has to go into one of these greenery spaces. So I will place the tree over there. And now I will flip this over to reveal a new tile. I will draw a new card from the decoration deck and I will add it next to that pile. Then I will discard this tile from the opposite corner and I will discard this decoration from the opposite corner. Replenish that card and replenish that tile. And I'll simply put those off to the side there for now, because we can potentially get one of those back later. And this brings me to an interesting element of the solo game. So basically we are playing against a clock that is running out. So if we find ourselves in a situation where, for instance, let's say I didn't have a greenery space available for that tree to go, then I couldn't pick that tile, because you have to be able to place the tile and the decoration. If at any point you find yourself in a position where you can't do that, then you have one final chance. You've got these lanterns in front of you. These give you various special bonuses, one of which is to take the garden tile and ignore the decoration. Why that's important is because if you can't place the tile and the decoration, you immediately lose. The other way to immediately lose is if ever one of these garden tile stacks completely runs out, then you immediately lose at that point as well, because you have run out of options to draw tiles and build them into the garden. So the solo game is much more of a puzzle to solve than the strategy and machinations that go into the multiplayer game. So for the rest of this video, I'm actually just going to focus on the gameplay elements of the solo game, because there's quite a few differences and the multiplayer game does play out quite differently. The thought processes, what you're going to be doing is all rather different, but the core mechanics of placing tiles, placing decorations, etc. is the same. So I'm hoping that will give you a pretty good sense of how this plays and also just showcasing this beautiful, stunning game. I should add, talking about beautiful, stunning game, this is the standard edition of the game. This isn't deluxeified or special add-ons or anything. This is just how it comes. So this is quite a stunning production, I think, for just the standard version of the game. Anyway, kudos to Thundergriff Games for pulling this off. So now I'm just going to burn through a few more turns and just place things and explain what I'm doing as I go. And hopefully you'll get a good sense of the gameplay and the flow, and you'll see a couple of the unique solo play elements as we go. I'm going to add this tile over here to the map because that is adding a new space for decorations to go. That is that water decoration, which is somewhere where you can put fish or the flowers. I've matched water to water, so that will gain me 1 coin. Now I must place this bridge. And the reason I chose to do this corner instead of any of the others is because I know from playing this game that there are fewer bridges in the deck than there are trees and birds. So I think the trees are the most, I think the flowers and the fish are second most or something, and I know that the bridges are quite scarce. So I'm going to play a bridge because right now I have a spot available here that needs a bridge. So I will place a bridge on that space. And you will see that the bridge has this little circular space. So the bridge offers a place for a person to stand, as do the pavilions. You can see the pavilions are open on the back, and they also allow a place for a person to stand inside, looking in any direction. And now I discard this tile in the corner there, discard the decoration with it. I will then replenish this decoration over here, refresh this deck, refresh this deck, replenish this card, and take another turn. So in the solo game, the turns tick along pretty quickly. It can bog down a little bit when you're staring at the map trying to figure out what to put where. And like I said, it's very much a puzzle. So you're really trying to solve the puzzle and get this very specific area filled in before you back yourself into one of those corners of running out of tiles or running out of cards. Okay, so next, let us place this greenery tile over here. I will get 1 coin. Oop. Now, in the multiplayer game, if you match pathways together, that's when you get coins. And when you match the greenery tiles and the water tiles and things, that's when you advance those various trackers along your board. So basically, in this game, you're gaining coins in lieu of that, but you're not gaining coins for matching up the pathways. Let's place another decoration. We'll place these lovely little flowers in the garden here somewhere. Let's place them over there. And I'll explain some of the strategy for what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So I'm putting these things in a line rather than putting these flowers over there. I'm putting them over here because at the end of the game, when you place your miniatures on the board, in the solo game, you place your miniatures right at the very end. In the multiplayer game, you place them during gameplay when you unlock certain levels of your player board. And where they're facing matters depending on their site preference. And also, they will score 1 coin or 1 point for every decoration that they have in their direct line of sight. So if this empress was standing over here, for instance, looking this way, if I place a tile here that you can stand on, then she would right now score 2 points for those 2 decorations. So if I can place more tiles here and get more decorations on them in straight lines, that's how you can score quite a lot of bonus points at the end of the game, over and above the site preference of your character. You'll also see that I've got 2 characters off to the side here, and in fact they should have their miniatures standing with them. So we have the hermit and the poet. And the hermit wants to look at rockery tiles at the end of the game, and the poet wants to look at water tiles at the end of the game. The reason these are here is because in the solo game, once I have collected 10 coins, I unlock one of these characters, bring them in front of me. I will then be able to score them at the end of the game. The other character will immediately be added to the board, thereby blocking off another space, and I'll draw 2 new characters from the deck over here. Let's replenish this card over here. Oops. Replenish that deck, discard that tile, discard that card, replenish that over there, replenish that over there. This decoration is how you get these pavilions onto the board. We have some more trees and we have 2 that need fish. So I am going to take this tile and I'm going to place it over here because I want to show you something. So if I place this over there, quite possibly not the most strategic choice, but anyway, I will then place a tree, which would be this type of tree over here. But before I do so, I'm just going to show you here that I've just matched greenery to greenery, so that gains me a coin. And then I've also closed in this greenery area. So you can see that there's no open ends of greenery anywhere here. So now by closing that off like that, I score 1 additional bonus coin, which now takes me to 5 coins. So I'll trade those in for a 5, just to make it a bit more visually easy to see what's going on down here. And now I will add this tree. It has to go there or there. Let's put it over here because again, I can then build a straight line that way. This space over here is where you can place a pavilion. So if I were to place a pavilion there, that's where a person can stand. So they could potentially look this way and get some bonus points from those decorations. And then you'll see that this tile has this little red wall over here. That red wall is basically a wild space. So any tile, any type of terrain can match up against it. And it will also close off. So if you were to put that there, for instance, that would count as closing off that terrain. But you wouldn't score any extra points because you're not matching green to green. You would just be closing off a green, so you'd still only score 1 point for that. But these red walls can really help with, especially in the solo game, being able to build out the map and close off those various tricky spots because they can give you quite a bit more flexibility with where you're allowed to place tiles. Let us replenish that. Ooh, we got more fish. This is going to be a problem. But that gives us a space to place fish, so that's good. We discard this tile, we discard this fishy, we replenish this decoration, and we reveal that. So, do I want to place a pavilion on the board? That might be an idea, although I think getting another place for fish would be quite a good one. Fishy. Yes, I'm going to place this special tile over here. I'm going to place it like so, because the wall can match up against anything. That is matching rock to rock, so that is 1 coin. And it's closing in that rocky terrain, so that is another coin. Then I can place this fish on the board, and I will place this fish over here on that space I just unlocked. Place that fishy over there. We will replenish this card, flip that over. There's another one of those spaces to place a person. Discard that tile, discard that card, replenish that card, and refresh that stack. I want to show you how landscapes work. So I'm going to place this tile over here. So this is going to go there. That is going to score me 1 coin for matching the terrain. And now you will see that this has bumped into the edge of the board for the solo game. So we ignore this outer line, so we treat this as though it's the edge. So this little area of water can now never be closed. That's just a river running off through the garden wall that we didn't get to close off. And so we won't be able to score the bonus points for closing off that terrain. We need to place this pavilion. So let's place one of these pavilions on the board. We have precisely one location that a pavilion can go, and that is there. So not much choice in the matter over here. So that will go there. And lastly, we picked up one of these tokens. So now this token represents a small landscape. So I'll put that in front of me. I can now place either of these 2 small landscapes. I can see that this one has a waterfall terrain. So you can see in the picture it shows a waterfall, and then it shows this little terrain icon, which is specific to some of the characters. And then this one has a temple, and none of these characters currently want to look at either of those. So that makes it a bit tricky, because usually you want to try and place these in such a way that you can build up sets of them. Like for instance, you can see here we've got this temple on this big terrain and then a temple on the smaller terrain. So if you can have these 2 on the same side of the map, then a character can look at those at the end and score points, if it's a character that wants to look at temples. So I'm just going to place this one over here. Actually, I'll place it over here so that you can look at it from that side. And then this one, now this is specific to the solo game again. In the multiplayer game, when you pick up one of these, you can place a landscape. But in the solo game, I place whichever one I didn't pick of the 2 face up on the opposite side of the board, like so. Again, that's simulating a second player being at the table and placing things out. We now reveal a new one so that there's always 2 face up to choose from, and play proceeds. And I'm going to go through a couple more turns to show you how the characters come in. So let's see if I can do that pretty quick. I'm skipping a step. I will replenish that card over there, refresh that stack, discard this tile, discard this card, replenish that card, reveal that tile. I will place this tile because I want to place that bridge over there, and then a character can look this way and see a whole bunch of decorations. So that is stone. That will have to go there or there. So I'll simply place it over... Let's place it over there. Nope, nope, nope. Let's place it over there, because that is a space for a character to stand, and they can then look this way and look at a whole bunch of decorations. Okay, that is matching terrain, but it is not finishing terrain, because that is still open over there. So I gain 1 coin for that. I then place the bridge on the map. I will place a bridge over here. That is the only place a bridge can go, so not many options there. I will replenish that, and there's another bridge, but now you'll see there is no space for a bridge to go. So unless I can draw a card that lets me place a bridge, I will be in a bit of a pickle to try place tiles from that stack. But as you see, the way you replenish these, you can stack things quite in your favor if you're clever. That has just revealed this tile, which is one of the special tiles. There are 3 of these in the game. There is a green one, a brown one for rockery, and a blue one for water. So you'll see that this tile has got walls all the way around it, which means you can place it anywhere on the map. It can go adjacent to any terrain. It will also close off terrain. So if you were to place it, for instance, over here, let's just move this out of the way for now. If I were to place that there, that would then close off that rocky terrain, which would score me a coin. And because it's a green one, it would score extra points for any green tiles that match it on the edges, and also for any green tiles that you place in future turns, you would get bonus points for as well. So these are quite useful, particularly in this solo game, to be able to fill in tricky spots. I need 1 more coin, and then I can show you how characters come into play. I am going to get another coin by placing this water over here. Okay, I'm going to place that water over there. That gains me 1 coin, which now takes me to 10 coins total. So I'll just finish placing this decoration, which is a fish. And we can place this fishy over there or over there. Let's place the fishy over there. And then we will refresh that tile. We will discard that. We will discard that. We will refresh that. We will refresh that. And we will refresh that. And I now have 10 coins. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 5. I'm just going to make change and take a 10, because then it's easy to keep track. In the solo game, each time you get to 10, 20, or 30 coins, you can recruit another character in front of you. So right now I can choose to take the hermit or the poet and keep them in front of me, and then I'll be able to place them at the end of the game for end game scoring. The hermit wants to look at rocks. So he would look at rocks over here. He would see 1, 2 if he could be looking down this line. And he would see 1, 2 if he's looking down this line. So that's not fantastic. I'm thinking the poet is going to be the better one to keep. So I'm going to take the poet and put her in front of me, because I could put the poet on this bridge over here, and then she counts the space she's standing on as well. So that would count as 1, 2, and there's some water on this tile as well. So that's 3. So that would score her 2, 4, 6 points, because you score 2 points for each tile that matches the depicted landscape. And then she will score 1 point for every decoration she's looking at, including the one she's standing on. So she would count this bridge for 1, 2, 3, 4 points over and above the points she scores from her sight bonus. I bring her miniature and keep that in front of me. And then in the solo game, this hermit gets immediately placed somewhere on the board, and I can choose where. So do I want to put him on this bridge, or in this pavilion, or over here? I think for ease, I'm just going to place him on the bridge. Basically, you want to try and place these so that they're more in the middle, because as you've seen, you want to try and rather place your people so that you can see as many decorations as possible. So ideally, you want them placed right on the edges of the board looking across. So for placing the neutral miniatures, putting them in the middle is definitely preferable. Sometimes you're quite limited with where you can place them. Fortunately, I had quite a few options this time. We will return the hermit to the box and reveal 2 new cards. We have the monk and we have the merchant. So we'll bring the merchant over there and we'll bring the monk over there, and they are ready and waiting to enter play. And play continues. Okay, next turn I'm going to place this special tile over here. This isn't necessarily the best place for it, but let's see. I'll place it in there because it can match any terrain. It will score 1 point for itself. It always scores 1 point on its own. And then it will score a bonus point for closing off this water terrain. And I just spotted that I should have 1 extra coin because when I placed that tile earlier, I actually closed off this water terrain because this little piece of water is all on its own here. Let's put that there. Now I will place this. Gain a coin for the tile itself. Gain an extra coin for closing off terrain. And now, each time I place greenery tiles here or here, I will score a point for closing those off, as well as for matching the terrain. Okay, so we need to place a tree. Let's place a tree over there, which is the last place for a tree to go. So my options are getting limited. Ooh, that's not good. So that is a greenery tile, but it comes with a bridge. So maybe I will get to show you how to use one of the lanterns in a minute. Okay, that's refreshed all of those. Okay, I'm going to show you how a lantern works. I don't need to right now, but for demonstration purposes, the only choice I would have right now would be to place this tile, because I can place the flowers over there. So I could do that right now. I could place this tile over there, but you'll see that all of these others I wouldn't be able to. If I place this tile, there's nowhere for the bridge to go. If I place this tile, there's nowhere for the pavilion to go. And if I place this tile, there's nowhere for that bridge to go. I haven't quite backed myself into a corner, but I just want to demonstrate how one of these lanterns works. So this lantern over here, I can flip it face down, and it will allow me to pick a tile and ignore the decoration next to it. I will still discard the decoration, and I will discard this side, like we normally do. Refresh that. But I don't have to place that decoration. So now I can place this tile somewhere, and let's place it over here, which is going to let me place a large landscape. That will score 1 coin for matching the greenery to this special greenery tile, plus 1 more coin for closing off a greenery terrain, which brings me to another 5 coins, so I'm halfway to getting another character. And now I can place this landscape. But first, let's just finish refreshing the tiles over here. So we put that there, we replenish that there, and we replenish that there. Now I can place a large landscape. That's what this token represents. This is the large landscapes. As shown on the board, we have the large landscapes and the smaller landscapes. I am then going to place this large landscape over here because it's got this temple symbol, and this tile also has a temple symbol. And I can see that the monk over here wants to look at temples. He will give me 3 points for every temple he is looking at the end of the game. So once I get another 5 coins, I will recruit him, and I will place him such that he looks this way. So I'll try get him probably on that space to look down this way, looking at a whole bunch of decorations. And he will be seeing 2 temples. Now, the other tile is the one I didn't place. That landscape goes to the other side of the board. And we refresh that, so we always have 2, and there is another large landscape that has a temple on it. So if I place a tile over here, I can place that over there, and the monk will be in a good position to be scoring up to 9 points. And I think I'll wrap it up there. I've shown you pretty much all the basic rules of the solo game. You'll just keep on playing until you have either finished this entire inner square. I'll put a little graphical overlay for the area we're trying to fill. At which point, if you have managed to fill that in, you will tally up your score and compare it to a little legend in the back of the rulebook, which tells you how well you did. Or you may lose if you do not achieve that before one of the garden tile stacks runs out, or you find yourself in a position where you cannot place a tile and the decoration with it. So I hope that's given you a good idea of how the solo variant for Tang Garden plays. And I did briefly touch on the differences between the solo game and the multiplayer game. There are quite a few more that I didn't mention, and you can discover those for yourself should you decide to pick this up and give it a whirl. And with that, I will say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show.